Uh, Hi everyone. Welcome to this webinar on um, the next frontier in automation, which is basically talking more about harnessing the power of generative AI and introducing it in our existing process automations and how does it exemplifies our business value and gives better ROI in the long run. So this session is a little interesting one where we're not just going to be talking about what's in the presentation, more like in a webinar, but also we are going to conclude the session with a live demo. I have our practice head with me who is going to conclude it with a live demo of which is going to show the power of Gen AI and RPA together. Next slide. So in this session, there are two presenters, one being me. I uh, Ankita Sthana is taking care of any new RPA implementation projects. And my background includes I have been certified by Automation Anywhere and UiPath for partner sales and implementations. And I've also been trained by ServiceNow Automations, which is also coming under the part of Gen AI and RPA. And our next presenter would be Mr. Asif Hussain, who is the RPA practice head of Royal Cyber. And I would let him speak about himself and take it from here. Over to you, Asif.
Thanks, Ankit. I will not take much time in introducing myself. I'm Asif Hussain, RPA practice head and solution architect at Royal Cyber. For like past 20 plus years, I'm driving business efficiency for our customers. So I'll quickly talk why we are talking about RPA, Gen AI together. So how this automation actually started it, a decade ago or more. It was called robotic desktop automation, and the journey started with that. And we saw RPA coming up that had more scope and more powers than just simple desktop automation tool. Now with the advancement in machine learning and artificial intelligence, this is going forward. So automation reaches its full potential at the end of a consistent process. And we like to call this as a journey in which virtual workforce ultimately is deployed by the organization to help achieve its long range corporate goals. So usually it begins with a simple process driven highly repetitive manual processes that do not need decision making at any stage and um, move towards data driven processes that need one or more decisions during the process. So, um, so if we take a look at how RPA and AI are different, so AI and RPA is just the uh, handwork, like you operate your keyboard, you operate your mouse, right, with your hands. So this mechanical work can be done by RPA through a software. So it can operate your softwares just like a human user. Plus, it can make API calls and computations like a computer or like a software. When we combine it with head work through AI, it can take decisions. It has the cognitive capabilities. And now with Gen AI, much better natural language processing and understanding of the unstructured data. So, where Gen AI can help in automation. So it can help in process selection, it can help in bot development and automation execution. with AI and Gen AI, we can have task analysis and process mining to understand your manual processes and the bottlenecks in your processes. Um, with Gen AI embedded into the development tools that RPA offers, we can use Gen AI to generate code or flows on the fly just with natural language prompts and create uh, path predictions based on that. Um, so it can create a skeleton of your automation just by mentioning what automation you need. For example, if you uh, ask such an RPA tool which is capable of this, uh, that I want to create a process that um, takes input from Excel file, logs into SAP, and uh, insert data related to purchase orders into the relevant system. So it will create a flow, and Gen AI can be used to develop. While it can also be used for automation execution, so it can we can execute a specific automation based on the understanding acquired through Gen AI through natural language prompts, or summarize the outcomes of um, an automation, robotic process automation process. So
So,
there can, yeah, yes, Ankit.
so Asif, when you say that Gen AI can take care of bot development, does it mean that it is going to anyhow take away jobs of RPA developers? Like it sounds that
Not
way.
exactly. The skeleton it can make based on an instruction prompt is just a skeleton. So it will bring almost the right components or right action items of the flow in the process. But a developer or a power user still has to configure them to work right. For instance, basic configuration can be it may put an action to log into SAP, but someone has to configure what user ID password to provide there and from what secure channel that user ID password should come from. Uh, or if you say that make an API call to ServiceNow to get something, it will put this API call component, but you will have to provide the endpoint and the authentication. So it can help a developer do its job faster.
All right.
All right, so now with the help of AI and the components available through Marketplace and the components available within the RPA tools, you can not only discover and mine processes, you can produce automations through RPA and get analytics on the automations produced. So from discovery to automate to optimize, everything you can take help from Gen AI. So let's take a look at some use cases of Gen AI based RPA business cases. So for example, if invoice processing is mentioned here, let's suppose see this one, and it's mentioned here in supply chain, but in any vertical you can use invoice processing. And so streamlining the invoice processing can significantly reduce cost and turnaround time, and that can be very well done with RPA and Gen AI. Um, in like medical history taking, it is very important, very beneficial. So automating medical summary creation, and it can elevate the burden of physicians and enhance patient care, and physicians can spend more time in the actual work of healthcare than just typing in the information or pulling into information and reading history. Um, it can help in summarizing after visit summary by the physicians, um, or it can help in complaint resolution by implementing automated complaint resolution systems that can enhance customer satisfaction and streamline support processes. It can help in accelerate email triage by automating the email triage process. You can improve efficiency and customer satisfaction. So in a lot of areas, Gen AI can help with RPA, and we'll take a look at some in detail in this session. So let's see why RPA with Gen AI is important. Uh, Gen AI can perform certain things, like it can provide you details about just about anything, but um, with the right context provided by RPA, it can be much more accurate. So I can talk about, like, I can ask Gen AI about headache, right? But to know about what is probably the cause of headache for a particular customer, if history of that customer is provided to the Gen AI, it can come back with much accurate response, right? Just for an example. So RPA can help provide the context to our to Gen AI. RPA can choose better suited model for Gen AI. So based on a particular use case or scenario, before asking Gen AI to respond, RPA can help decide which model to ask, which can get better response in a particular scenario. Or RPA can uh, robots do the work, but Gen AI's brain, as we discussed earlier also. So Gen AI can act as a brain, and RPA can be the muscle of the automation. Um, Human in the loop we can keep through Gen AI, through RPA. So Gen AI can do certain things, but if we want to get what our what Gen AI is doing um, approved and reviewed, we can keep a human in the loop through RPA. Um, and for confidence in governance, it can help. Like RPA and Gen AI work together to establish governance frameworks, including audit logs and controls to ensure compliance and transparency and accountability in business operations. All right, now let's see some patterns how Gen AI can power automations. So the first model here you see, we call it reader and writer model. So RPA reads some information from source systems. They can be like email, text message, Slack channel, Teams chat, or um, any third-party system, ServiceNow, Salesforce. And based on the information RPA fetches, LLM understands what it is about or what it needs to do, and certain actions are taken, maybe in the form of on the same channel or a different channel, or entering into a different application. On the other hand, you can use it as a doer. So based on the information fetched, LLM understands what it needs to do, and an RPA bot actually performs that action into some other systems. And it can act as an assistant model. So when it acts in an assistant model through a conversational interface like chat, team chats, or any messenger or email or any interface through which it can read information. It gets a query, LLM understands that, and it has understanding of the processes through a knowledge base acquired through RPA. So with the information that it gets through the knowledge base, LLM can understand what it needs to do for this particular ask by the user, and respond to the user to based on the knowledge it gained through knowledge base, or perform action, or both, to get something done. Maybe a user asks for a password reset, and based on the knowledge base, it can send back the process to the user, that what they need to do to reset a password, or perform the actions through an RPA bot in the intra ID or Active Directory to actually reset the password for that user and send the information back that your password is reset. So there are some examples for each of those models that we discussed uh, on last screen, on this screen. And so you can use reader writer model for cold called emails to gather context about your audience and generate emails. You can have customer feedback response to gather sentiment and customer history to generate tailored response. You can have proposal writer to combine multiple answers from your knowledge base and with additional context for a tailored answer to a personal question. For applicant communication, you can combine feedback from interviews, JD details, and applicant resume for tailored communications. For summary generation, you can summarize customers' history, support ticket history, for faster consumption of um, information by customer facing agents. So you can use it in KYC summarization, you can use it for compliance and ESG reporting to monitor data and reports from multiple systems, sources, and generate consistent reporting. Um, you can use it in many different ways. I can just keep on discussing this slide for too too long, maybe. So let's move ahead. And you can see how doer model can be used. You can use it for multi-source report creation, so gather reporting from different systems, documents, and emails, and combine them into one set. You can use for structuring and normalizing data by you can use for two-way matching. We have an example of two-way matching in invoice processing use case that I'll show you later. Um, so, Ankit, do you want to get into detail of any of these or on any of the processes on the previous screen, this one?
So basically, I think we'll talk more when we come to invoice processing, as you mentioned, two-way matching.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that is a use case that is very familiar to me. I
Okay.
have done it for clients, and that is something that I can talk more about. So let's head to the demo, and then we can talk.
All right, we'll get there. So last assistant model, as we discussed, so it can use as a knowledge base assistant, and your RPA tool can be used to augment the knowledge accessible to the LLM and vectorize the databases and embed into the prompt that it asks. Um, it can be used in support escalation assistant. So variation of knowledge based assistant focused on customer support escalations can be made through it, understanding where the discussion is going and it needs to be escalated. It can be auto escalated through LLM and RPA together. It can be used as a learning assistant, and RPA can help find courses from different learning platforms and recommend to one user. So it can be part of an onboarding program at a company that, based on the profile and the position a company is being onboarded, it can suggest what training courses the person should take. Um, so let's move ahead with our two-way match use case of invoice processing. It involves UiPath's document understanding and generative AI to seamlessly process invoices. So this use case, as the name suggests, is intelligent invoice processing. It handles processing of invoices received in different formats by an organization, and it uses natural language prompt Gen AI to handle validation logic of the invoice against approved purchase orders. So let's take a look at that. So your partner, business partners are sending, or your suppliers are sending invoices, and they are getting to your organization in different formats. They can be through old-fashioned fax or email, or landing into a folder at your cloud drive, or a shared drive, or through real mail, like snail mail, that you have to scan. And they all are fed to UiPath. So UiPath is listening to all these sources and reading those invoices. Through the integration services UiPath offers, UiPath can understand the content of an invoice better using OpenAI. So first, the invoice can be in any format, because your suppliers will not follow your format. There would be no
Right.
standardization. And UiPath's document understanding can understand what it needs to pick from an invoice. We all know that invoice should have a vendor name, an invoice date, an invoice amount, total tax, number of items, or the items this that are for which the invoice is for, maybe a due date. So all these in parameters will be picked. So it's not like just with the invoice. Um, UiPath or an Automation Anywhere, all such tools have document understanding that can understand pretty much any format, any document that you design taxonomy for. And some famous formats like like invoice, you don't even need to design taxonomy for, that comes built in. Uh, so based on that, it understands the document, reading the right information from there. And then here in our scenario, we are feeding it to OpenAI to understand better. We'll come back why OpenAI is used here. Parallelly, the automation fetches approved purchase orders from SAP. And once approved purchase orders are fetched by SAP, they are also um, fed and compared through OpenAI against the invoice received. And we can, this approach involving OpenAI here gives better flexibility while matching purchase orders and invoices. So once an invoice is matched against a purchase order, it is processed. If it is not matched accurately with the purchase order, it is sent to Action Center to be reviewed by a document specialist. And document specialist, a human user, can either reject or send it for processing.
So, Asif, like, I want to understand, like, before Gen AI, was RPA not able to do invoice processing on its own? I think it's a very old use case. And now, what benefit does OpenAI brings to this existing use case? How is it
Very
going to
good
make sense?
question. So even before OpenAI or any Gen AI's existence, um, invoice processing was being done. But with the OpenAI or any Gen AI, it's more flexible now. Just for example, if you get an invoice from Microsoft Inc. Um, and your purchase order is entered with the name Microsoft, if you compare both through string comparison, it will not match. But if you compare both through generative AI, it will say it's a match. So it gives more flexibility in understanding uh, these documents. One other example could be, let's suppose your purchase order is generated for gate building sheets or gate building material. All right. And your invoice is has an item mentioned, iron sheets. Okay.
No.
Now, without AI's understanding, your system will not understand that both are same. But with the right context, OpenAI can help understand that, okay, gate building material is actually iron sheet. And if it is not actually 100% sure about that, it can send as an issue to the action center with a specific instruction that only this item is mismatched, and it can be like 50% chance that they are the same. So document specialists can take a decision much faster.
Right. Makes sense.
All right. Now the next part of this session is how we can use generative AI through Microsoft Copilot, and uh, trigger automations at the back using Power Automate and Graph Microsoft Graph Connector. So Microsoft Power Automate is another RPA tool, and that gel in very well with Copilot and Microsoft infrastructure. So you can see here a solution architecture of our demo, where a user comes to any of these channels, Teams or a web-based chatbot, a Slack channel, Skype, Telegram, Facebook chat, a telephone call, or email, any through any mess way, or even through mobile app chat, your custom mobile app, uh, and you that interaction gets to Copilot. And when it gets to Copilot through LLM, it understands what the intention is, and the query is sent to the integrations um, layer, where whether through a graph uh, module or a semantic index search that is possible through graph, it gets things done, or through Power Automate, it talks to different systems and get things done. When I say get things done, it can be fetching information from third-party systems and summarizing and presenting to the user, or uh, performing a job actually at a third-party system and bringing up the response. So let's suppose a user may ask for uh, tickets assigned or incidents assigned in ServiceNow against his user or some of his fellow users. And it can the all this automation can query ServiceNow and bring back the results and show summary to the user. Or a user can ask to create an incident or a request in ServiceNow or Salesforce or any system with certain details. And Copilot can ensure that what are the required details that it needs, and then send that information to the integration layer to run an automation that actually performs a job, creates that incident or requisition, or uh, whatever the intention of the user is, and then get back the request ID or whatever the approval ID or stuff like that. Any questions, Ankit? And we'll take. We are getting questions in the chat as well. We'll take them, like answer them in the end one by one. But Ankit, do you want to mention anything here?
So looking at this representation and understanding the structure infrastructure that you explained, I'm really excited to see how does it turns out in real environment. If you can take us to through that in a live demo. That will be
Sure
amazing.
thing. Yeah, we'll move towards that now. All right, now let's see. There's a demo. Here you can see on my right my Teams window that is connected with Microsoft Copilot, and on on my right the Teams window is, and on my left there is this ServiceNow logged in with incidents. You can see. Um, I can query about incidents in my Teams window, and there is an automation built in Copilot that is triggered against different type of queries and get things done, or either fetch information from ServiceNow or uh, write information into ServiceNow. Or we have another integration through the same Copilot made with Microsoft Intra ID. Intra ID is the new name for Active Directory. So Azure Intra ID is also connected with it through uh, RPA based automations built on Microsoft Power Automate. So if I ask this Copilot, first I can anyway greet also. Let's see if it's alive. Yep, seems alive. All right. So my query is so Yvette is a user, and look at this. I made some spelling mistakes. Let's see if it understands. Just like a human user, right? I'm making some mistakes. Look at this. It fetched the incidents assigned to Yvette. Although I had some spelling mistakes, it brought the incidents assigned to Yvette. If I say, what are the incidents assigned to Yvette with priority 5? Look at that. How easily I'm getting information. As an executive, I don't have to ask some manager or some technical resource to get that information for me and then wait for his or her availability and then provide that information. So for instance, if I say, what are effect, how many tasks are open? Too many, right? Because it's a test system. Mostly tasks are open. They are not closed. All right. Um, or let's say if I ask, what are the AD groups user Hamza is part of? So now it will not go to ServiceNow to get this information. It will go to Azure Active Directory. Knew where to go and fetch this information. Somehow it gave it twice.
Oh,
Oh, Needs some tuning, I think. All right. And what if I ask it, add user Ankit to AD group win dev admin? So now it's not something that I'm asking to just fetch information. I'm asking it to do certain operation. So what department should the user be added to? Windows or Linux? It needs certain information in order to get this thing done because this is the form it needs to fill, right? So it will ask for all the information it needs for that. So let's suppose I say is department, or I can just simply say the department name. It's Windows, okay? Needs to provide reason. Ankit is doing a POC for Windows. Now it will open a access request in ServiceNow for Ankit with this information and should come up with a request number. So this is the request number generated against this entry that it just made into ServiceNow. Ah, something's wrong.
Amazing.
All right, it
Mm,
seems
yeah,
it created two requests. We'll have to see what's happening in the back end to stop this, but you got the idea, right? All right. What else it can do? Let's see if I ask it, how can I request ITIL access? So there is a knowledge base article in ServiceNow on this topic. Since this Copilot is connected with the knowledge base also, it can summarize that article and bring information from there that how a user can create a ITIL service access request. And with the summary, it is giving link to that article. If you want to click, if you want to go and read in detail, you can directly click here and get there. Or it knows that if someone is asking how to do it, that user probably wants to do it, right? So it is giving an option that do you want to do it? And if I say yes, it will start asking for the information it needs in order to do that. So this is the ITIL request form. And let's suppose I say Windows, the department, and reason is again, get is working on a Windows POC, and it should open a request. So it is saying, okay, do you really want to do it? Submit an order. All right, your request is created. So at the back, there are robots running, performing these actions and getting things done on your behalf, just on the chat you're doing.
amazing. I am just thinking of the things it could do on an enterprise level and help companies save so much time and increase efficiency on so many levels.
Right, so that's it for the demo part. Coming back to the deck. So how we can jumpstart for your organization using all these technology features, LLMs, RPAs, Copilot. We can have a custom model as per your convenience too, but this is generally what we suggest to start with a pilot project implementation that can go like 5, 6 weeks In order for you to experience the power of RPA and Gen AI in your organization on your use cases and um, showcase it to your organization's users, business users, and decision makers to actually start a full-fledged program to implement organization wide. You can connect with Ankit for more details about this.
Absolutely.
And that's it for the presentation part. Now we can move to the Q&A session. And
The floor is open for Q&A session. I would request attendees to mention their question in the chat box, and me and Asif will try to answer all the questions if possible within the stipulated time. And yeah,